I faded in and out of sleep throughout the night and the following day. I knew I dreamed, but I don't remember what they were about when I woke up. I only had the vague sense of blood and death. Molly's pillow was soaked with tears. My muscles were stiff, and it took me a long time to be able to sit up. I sat on the edge of the bed, my face pressed against my hands, lost in thought. The sun was down, the house dark. I managed to stumble my way to the bathroom and find the light switch. I stripped down and showered, not bothering with the hot water, just letting the freezing water wash over me. I could barely feel the cold. I pulled my clothes back on and stumbled to the kitchen. In the fridge, I quickly glanced over at the things obviously meant for a child, for Scarlet, and pulled out some leftover lasagna. I quickly found a plate and placed a piece of Molly's from scratch cooking in the microwave. Scarlet had gushed over her mother's cooking often, but most often about her lasagna. It was her favorite thing that Molly cooked. I'd never tried Molly's cooking before. Part of me was heartbroken it would be leftover and not fresh. Part of me wanted to break down with the knowledge I was only trying her cooking because of the death of the world. I blanked out and stared at the microwave for a while. Slowly coming out of my daze, they pushed the button, setting it for 5 minutes. Push start, and the power went out. I just stood there, stunned. For several minutes I thought I had to be the one to cause the power outage. When the shock wore off, I realized that no one was alive to run the power plants, and it would only be a matter of time before water and power would turn off. And it turned out now was the time. Maybe it would come back on, but I doubted it. I was almost overcome with depression that it couldn't have lasted just a few more moments. I should have eaten first. The shower had not been that important. Just a few more minutes. Enough to even take the chill off. I almost broke down staring at the lifeless microwave. But somehow, I managed to keep it together. I fumbled in the fridge for the sandwich meat I'd seen, and with effort managed to get some of the food down. I didn't taste it though. When I finished and drank some of the milk, I placed most of the food in the freezer to help it keep a little longer. I stumbled my way to the laundry room, checking the shelves above the washer and dryer, and with luck found a working flashlight. Molly kept her flashlight right where her parents had kept theirs. That thought made me feel weird. I can't explain it, but it made me both happy and depressed. I tried to brush the feeling off, to ignore it. I turned the light on and headed upstairs to the bedrooms. I scanned Scarlet's bed for the stuffed animal that seemed to have the most use, the one she played with the most. A small white kitten lay in the center of her pillow, worn but not tattered or torn. I carefully picked it up and cradled it in my arms. I rushed to Molly's room before the thoughts could find me and grabbed the book from a bedside table, the one she had been reading before all of this. The air in the house became thick, unbreathable. I rushed outside, away from the pain. I ran as fast as I could, collapsed into my mum's car and slammed the door behind me. I tried to breathe. I could feel the pressure of the house closing in around the car. Molly, Scarlet, I would never see their sweet smiles again. I turned the key and sped away from the ghosts that once had been, and what would never be. I drove towards the store. I would need to stock up on food, water, and other supplies. I parked as close to the door as I could. I took a moment to mentally thank my mum for buying a full, white-trunked car. I fought the urge to lock the car. I had a bad feeling and wanted to leave the place as soon as I could. The doors to the store were broken, glass everywhere, a few bodies laid at the doors, crowbars and bats nearby. Carefully I made my way through the broken glass, turned on the flashlight and started to make my way around the store. I'm not sure how long it took me to fill up the car with as much non-perishable food and bottles of water I could. I filled an ice chest with ice and tossed in sandwich meat, pre-cooked ham and other things of the sort. I also grabbed some other essentials like blankets, toilet paper, medications, soap, more flashlights, batteries, matches, battery-powered radios, some CDs that I wanted because why the hell not, other odds and ends. As I started to make my way to the car for the last time, I saw movement to my left. A young boy, maybe 10 or 11. He saw me, turned, and ran. I thought about following him for a moment, but decided it would be best to just continue on my way. I thought about grabbing a gun, but didn't know how to use it, so dismissed that thought. When my mum's car was fully loaded with everything I could think of, I slumped in the driver's side seat, placed the kitten and Molly's book along with a few essentials into my new hiker's backpack and pulled away. I spent the next few days locked up in my apartment. I mostly slept, but for the hours I was awake I read Molly's book or got lost in my own thoughts. I quickly gave up on looking for a news report on the radio, and just played my new CDs with the sound on low. I ignored the world outside my apartment walls, and it seemed to ignore me as well. After the third day locked up in my apartment, I decided it was time I got out. Going outside during the day seemed too overwhelming. The sun was too bright, the blood on the sidewalks too nauseating, and I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched by malicious eyes. So I waited for night to fall. I filled my backpack and made my way back to my mum's still-loaded car. I wanted to check out the rest of town. When I reached the downtown area, I parked, grabbed my backpack, and locked up, beginning my exploration. Broken windows, broken streetlights, graffiti, other vandalism was everywhere. Not as much as I expected, though. It seems there had been rioting, but it ended quickly, and the bodies, or at least most of them, had been carried away. Blood stained the sidewalk. I just kept walking. After several blocks, I encountered the X's for the first time. I saw lights bouncing in the distance. People with flashlights running. For some reason, I was filled with dread. Without a second thought, I turned my light off and pressed against the wall of the building next to me. There was a small cove in the architecture every several feet. In the daylight, I would have been spotted from blocks away, but at night, there was a chance I couldn't be seen. They were a short distance from me when I saw them clearly enough to tell what was happening. 6 guys in their late teens or early 20s were chasing a terrified mid-teens girl. When the guys caught up to the girl, they grabbed her hair and yanked her back to them. It surprised me to hear no sound from her. No screams, no pleas for mercy, nothing. She fought back, but didn't make a sound. The sound of ripping fabric filled the streets. Her struggling became more frantic. I wanted to move, wanted to help, but there was nothing I could do. They had knives, guns, and other weapons dangling from their belts in their hands. They pinned her to the asphalt, and she finally started to scream. Blood-curdling screams. Within seconds, however, her screams morphed into laughter. It was then the boys backed off her. They settled their lights on her. Gruesome smirks smeared across their faces. The girl writhed on the pavement in agony. She screamed her laughter. I closed my eyes and covered my ears the best I could and waited for the horror to end. When it finally ceased, I heard the boys giving each other high fives and patting each other on the back. I noticed, though, that they didn't verbally congratulate each other. They did something to her body before clicking off their flashlights and continued along their way silently. As they passed by me, the moonlight revealed their faces. They were basking in the afterglow of their kill. Long after they were gone, I moved slowly to the girl. I allowed only moonlight to reveal her. A few scraps of clothes were still on her, but most had been ripped off. They had positioned her body into an X, her arms spread above her, her legs below her. I closed her eyes before continuing on my way. All through the town it was the same story, bodies scattered here and there. Some lay where they fell, the laughter took them over, and some positioned into an X. Some windows broken, some not. Some stores almost cleared out, some not even touched. For the rest of the night I saw no other humans, no lights. From time to time I saw stray animals. A few cautiously came to me. I fed them some meat that I had. There was more than enough to last, and I couldn't keep it for very long anyways. It was then it dawned on me that I hadn't seen any corpses of animals, only humans. True, the animals were all very skittish. Even the ones that did come up to me were full of fear, but they were not dead. Only humans were being erased from the world, or only we were meant to die. At daybreak, I came across the X's again. It was a different set of people, but they had the same mission. I saw the young boy first, maybe 5 or 6. He sat on a swing in the park, not moving. He was filthy, arm wrapped around his stomach, and obviously hungry. I prepared to make my way to him, offer him some food, but that's when they came. They were running at top speed towards the boy. I was able to hide behind a large tree before they saw me. Not that they would have noticed me anyway. They were focused purely on the boy. They had X's all over their bodies. The only girl wore earrings with X's on them. Some had X's on necklaces, X's painted on their faces, or printed on their shirts. One guy had small cuts in his shirt that showed enough skin on his chest and stomach to make an X. They were covered with weapons as well: guns, knives, chains, brass knuckles, and several other things. They looked mean and dangerous. They ran up to the boy, not making a sound other than their shoes hitting the ground and their chains jingling. The boy stumbled to his feet, trying to run but was unable to. When they caught him, they began to beat him with bats, crowbars, a rake, and other things. After only a few seconds of beatings, the boy screamed in pain. His screams quickly turned into laughter. It was that moment that it hit me. Sound. Sound was the trigger. Talking, screaming, laughing. Sound. Scarlet laughing, the other children and adults on the playground screaming. The girl on the street was calling out to me. Sound. I didn't realize then just how bad it was, though. When the boy died, they gutted him, using his blood to paint the nearby wall with an X. The girl and one of the guys spread his body into an X. One of the guys stared at the boy's mutilated body, stared at the blood and gore. His hand moved down between his legs and he started rubbing. I couldn't believe it. He was getting after the boy's death, to his mutilated corpse. The girl noticed and rolled her eyes at him, shaking her head in disgust. Anger flashed in his eyes. He lunged at the girl and shoved his mouth hard into hers. She pulled away instantly, hitting him on the side of the head with a chain wrapped around her fist. He jerked back, reaching a shaking hand up to his bleeding head. His face turned bright red. He grabbed the girl, shoving her onto the ground, pouncing on top of her, pawed at her clothes. Dirt clouded around them. The girl stopped fighting and covered her nose and mouth. The guy inhaled the dust and started to cough. Terror flashed across his face. He stood up, shaking his head vigorously, refusing to believe what was about to happen. Then, he started to giggle. The others around him just stared. The girl propped herself up on her elbows, grinning, raised one hand into the air and lifted one finger, flipping him the bird. The laughter grew and grew. I admit I took some pleasure knowing that he was about to die. I did not take pleasure in hearing his death, nor the knowledge his death brought. Coughs would bring on the laughter as well. No more speaking, no more coughing. I realized sneezing was more than likely out too. Unless the thing went away as fast as it arrived or an antidote was found, we would all be dead soon, and there would be no escape for anyone. The laughter stopped. The monster fell to the ground. Blood pooled around him. The others shook their heads and walked away. I sank to the ground, leaning against a tree while I thought. I had lost hope that I would survive, but I had not yet lost the will to live. When the sun was bright in the sky, I returned to the store. I loaded up on guns and bullets, quickly teaching myself to shoot. I slid several hunting knives onto my belt and grabbed pepper spray and other things I could use to protect myself. If I came across the X's again, I would be prepared to protect myself and any others I came across. There were others out there, and maybe someone would have some answers for me. I just had to find them.